Hi, it's March 2023. It's the beginning of the hiking season and I've just arrived in Winchester in the south of England. So I'm planning to spend this summer walking around the hiking trails around the UK. So Winchester is the start of the South Downs Way, and that's a 99-mile walk which goes down to Eastbourne on the south coast. So I'm just heading for the start of the walk now. So Winchester is a very historic town, of course. I know people have been living here since the Iron Ages because there used to be a Iron Age hill fort on St Catherine's Hill, which is quite close to the town centre, and then it became an important Roman town, and then in the 9th century it was the capital. Winchester was the capital town of Wessex, and it's got a lot of strong connections with King Alfred the Great, who is considered to be the first king of England, and this is where his base was. And then in 1066 the Normans came and they made Winchester one of their major towns, and they built the magnificent cathedral, and when it was built this was the largest cathedral in Europe. So I'm just heading for the river now, and that's where the South Downs Way officially starts. Just heading down to where the statue of King Alfred is. I've got to mention that Wessex, that was one of the Saxon kingdoms. Before England became a unified country, it was divided into Saxon kingdoms such as Northumbria and Mercia and Wessex. So I'm just going to go past the statue now and I should be pretty close to the river. I actually did the walk about a couple of weeks ago, just a kind of practice walk ready for when I start doing a long distance hiking. So I'm very familiar with the route now, so I won't need a map or anything. The first hour or so it's just leaving the town and then going up to Telegraph Hill, and that's where I'll be having my first break, and there's some really nice views up there. So the footpath, it's very well signposted, so it's a very easy path to follow. Most people, I think they usually take about 5 days to do it. They do about 20 miles a day, but I like to do between 15 to 18. I like to take my time, so I take about 7 days to do it. So I'm just heading up to the footbridge that goes over the motorway now. So this is the part of the walk where you really feel that the walk is starting. You leave the outskirts of Winchester in the motorway, and then you come out into this lovely big field with the gorgeous views. So today's plan, I'm walking about 15 miles today. I'm heading up to Old Winchester Hill. It's an old Iron Age hill fort, and there's a wood just beyond the hill where I'll be camping tonight. And then tomorrow I'll be heading to the village of South Harting to stock up with food and then continue along the walk. I can just see St Catherine's Hill just over on the horizon. I might be coming back to Winchester later this year if I do the North Downs Way back in this direction. I might do a video walking around the town looking at the history. At the moment I'm heading down to Chilcombe. It's a small hamlet. There's nothing really, there's no shops or anything. There's a early Saxon church that's older than Winchester Cathedral, but I'll just be going through the hamlet and then heading up the hill to the top of Telegraph Hill. I've just arrived at the top of Telegraph Hill. There's a lovely view of Winchester and the upper Itchen Valley towards the north. This is a tumulus, which is it's the Latin word for a mound of earth. I think the plural is tumuli, and these are very historic burial mounds, and these date back to the Neolithic and Bronze Ages. So these are around 5,800 years to 3,400 years ago. They were building most of these, and they were used mainly they were burial chambers. And so they would, I guess the local Celtic tribe, they would have buried the chieftain here when he died. And there's several of these on the South Downs Way, so I'm looking forward to having a look at them as I walk along. There's a couple more barrows or tumuli just up the path, but I don't think they're in as good a condition as this one. So from here it's just a 5-minute walk to Cheesefoot Head. Just arrived at Cheesefoot Head. It's also known as the Matterley Bowl. Just over there there's a huge bowl-shaped area that was formed during the last ice age when the water was eroding the chalk. So for the next few miles now I'm just following farm tracks. There's a couple of farms along this part. There's Holden Farm and Loma Farm, and these very handy places because they've got water taps. So I'll be, when I get to Loma Farm, I'm going to top up with water for the evening. I don't need much at the moment, it's quite cold, still quite cold weather, so I won't be drinking much water, but I think July and August there'll be these water taps. They're very useful. So I'm heading now to Beacon Hill, so about 5 miles away I think, and some really nice views there. Just arrived at Holden Farm. There's a campsite here. I don't think it's open at the moment, but I guess they'll be quite busy in the summer. So there's a marker stone here, so show me how far I've done. So I've got 94 miles to go, and the water tap is just there. And then Loma Farm, where I'll be getting some water, that's just a mile along this track, and then I'll be heading up to Beacon Hill. Just arrived at Loma Farm, and here's the water tap. So I've got water for tonight now, so just heading up to Beacon Hill. One thing I like about the South Downs Way, there's lots of towns and villages along the route, such as South Harting and Stenning and Lewis. So things like food and water and accommodation is not really a big problem on this walk. And tomorrow morning I'm heading down to Queen Elizabeth Country Park. There's a cafe down there, and I hope it's open. It was open when I came here last time, so I'm hoping to have a nice coffee in the morning and before I carry on to South Harting. So now I'm just heading up to Beacon Hill, and then I'm heading down into the Meon Valley in the village of Exton, and from there it's just up the other side of the valley to Old Winchester Hill, and that's where I'll be calling it a day for today. Just arrived at Beacon Hill Nature Reserve. So the top of Beacon Hill, it's just a very easy walk. It's 201 metres above sea level, so it's just a minute or so just up here, and then I can get some nice views of the valley. Just arrived at the top of Beacon Hill. I think there was a beacon here when the Spanish Armada came in the 16th century, and it was used then. And there's a modern day beacon. It's just down the hill. I'll be passing it on the way down to the village, so I can just see Exton down there in the village. I'm not sure where Winchester Hill is, but it's just on the other side, so I'm just going to go down into the Meon Valley and then have a look at the village and then head upwards again. Quite a nice view heading down into the village. I don't think there's any shops in Exton. I've got a guidebook which says there's like a post office stores type of place, but I'm not sure if it's still open, and it's about 500 metres off route anyway. So there's a pub which is a good place to stop for lunch, but it's best to stock up with food in Winchester and then stock up again in South Harting. So I should be arriving in the village in about 20 minutes. Just arrived in Exton. I've just stopped for a snack in the pub. Now I'm just continuing up the hill. From the village, there used to be two routes up to Old Winchester Hill. There was a footpath which is just north of here, and then the other way is the cyclist way, the road, which is the way I'm taking now. And last time I was here, I tried taking the footpath, but unfortunately it was flooded and it had been closed down. It was about a foot underwater, so I think especially during the winter it's a good idea to stick to the cyclist route. So I'm just following the road up to Old Winchester Hill now. Here's a long distance footpath which I often come across when I'm travelling around the UK. So this is the Monarch's Way, and this is a long distance footpath. It's 625 miles long, and it roughly follows the route that King Charles II took after he lost the Battle of Worcester during the English Civil War in 1651, and he had to flee England, and he eventually managed to get to France. And I know it crosses the South Downs Way 2 or 3 times, and so I would like to do that walk one day. I think it's the longest inland walk in the UK, so one day I'll be up in Worcester and I might try that. So I'm just approaching Old Winchester Hill now. Just arrived at the top of the hill. It's really nice views from up here. I can see the south coast. According to Google Maps, I'm due north of Portsmouth, so Portsmouth just over there. Some really nice views to the north as well. So this was a Iron Age hill fort. So there's a information board just on the other side of the fort. So I'm just going to have a wander over there and find out a bit more about the place. So people have been living on this hill. They were living here about 3,800 years ago. Then during the Iron Age, about 2,500 years ago, they built the much more formidable hill fort. And there's some tumuli in the centre which are still here today. And of course the banks and the ditches are still quite visible. You can see why they built it here. It's very commanding views of the countryside. So it's time to look for a camping spot for the night. I'm in a little yew tree wood just past the hill fort, and this is quite a good place for camping. I got the idea for camping here from a video I saw. It's by a YouTuber called Walking with Jonathan, and he did the South Downs Way and he found a good spot to camp here. So I'm just gonna have a little wander around and look for a nice secluded spot for the night. So normally when I go hiking I just take a bog standard tent with me, but I thought on this walk I'd try something a bit different. I'm not a big fan of hammock camping because I've tried it 2 or 3 times before and I find it a really weird sensation. It's difficult to get to sleep, but there's a lot of people on YouTube, they won't go back to using a tent. They say it's the most comfortable night's sleep ever. So I just think it's a case of getting used to it. And this is where a hammock is ideal because I'm on quite a bit of a slope and there's lots of brambles and stuff everywhere. So I'm just going to give it a try tonight and see how it gets on. The good thing about this hammock, it's made by a company called DD Hammocks, and it's quite versatile. You can also use it on the ground. It's a ground sheet with the sewn in mosquito net. So if it's a nice flat ground, which I think I'll be on flat ground tomorrow, then I'll just be using it in ground mode instead of hammock mode. But anyway, time to settle down for the evening.
There is something in that. I think it's very interesting. I think the other thing to notice is the people that we're talking about here are 18 to 25 year olds, and as far as brain science is concerned, the brain doesn't reach maturity until the age of 25. So we're talking about young people in the teenage brain state, and it could be that they're craving novelty because we know the teenage brain craves novelty. So it could be part of that, or as you say, it could be habitual. I think it would be very interesting to see what happens to these young people after the age of 25.
So today's itinerary, I'm heading up to Butser Hill, and from there I'm going through the Queen Elizabeth Country Park, where I hope the cafe's open this morning. I can have a nice coffee before I carry on. And then I'm heading along the South Downs Way towards South Harting, and then after South Harting I'll go up on Harting Down, and that's where the South Downs Way starts to get quite scenic. There's some really great views up there, and then just after Harting Down I'll be finding somewhere to camp. So now I'm just following a road down to the Sustainability Centre, and that's where there's a campsite that's open in the summer. Unfortunately it's not open at the moment, so I'm heading down through there first and then up to Butser Hill for hoping to get some good views. It's going to be quite sunny this morning, but I think it's going to start raining, a few showers this evening. Just arrived at Butser Hill. Just arrived at the top of Butser Hill Nature Reserve. So this is the highest point on the South Downs Way. This is 270 metres above sea level. And there's some really nice views up here. It's home to several species of butterflies. There's quite a rare butterfly up here as well, but I don't think I'll be seeing any today. It's very, very cold and breezy. Wrong time of year, I think. So I'm just going to have a quick sit down, and then I'm going to head down to the Queen Elizabeth Country Park. There is a cafe here that's open Thursdays to Sundays, and so unfortunately it's closed today. But the next cafe is just a half-hour walk down the hill now. Just arrived at the Country Park Cafe. So it is open today, but it's not open till 10 o'clock. It's 9:15 at the moment, so I'm just going to sit down, wait for it to open, and then carry on. I'm a bit warmer after that. They sell hot food in there as well. I just had a sausage bap, which was quite substantial, so I won't be eating anything else now for the next few hours. So now it's about 5 miles or so to South Harting. Then after that I'll be continuing on to, there's a place called Devil's Jumps. There's some ancient tumuli there, and that's where I'll be camping tonight. So it's about another 10 miles from here. So I'm going to go through the forest now of the country park. I'm about a couple of miles away now from the village, and this is where the South Downs Way really, you start to see the walk in all its glory, because the views to the north really start opening up from here, and especially from Harting Down onwards. That's definitely the best part of the walk. Between Harting Down and Alfriston there's some amazingly good views. It's a bit dull at the moment, so I'm hoping there might be a bit of sunshine over the next couple of days. The bit I'm not looking forward to, when I get to the village I'll just stock up with all my food and water, and there's a bit of a steep climb up to Harting Down, and then there's a hill just after. I think it's Beacon Hill. There's a trig point on it, but once I'm there then it's worth it. It's really good views, and then it's just about 2 or 3 miles to where I'll be camping tonight. So I should be seeing the village quite soon, down in the valley. Just arrived in South Harting. There's a village store just up there, so I've just stocked up with all the food and water I'll need for my walk to Amberley, which I think is the next shop on the walk. I'm just going to pop into the White Hart pub. I'm just going to have a little mug of coffee before heading up to back up to the top. I don't usually drink much these days, but even if I did, it's a bit too cold for a pint of beer, and I'll probably feel like having a nap afterwards. So I'll just be drinking lots of coffee on this walk. Back on the South Downs way again. So now I'm just going to follow the track up to Harting Down and have a little break and admire the view. Just arrived on Harting Down. That's South Harting down in the distance. So it's a bit drab today, the weather, but still really nice views. I think the weather forecast for the next couple of days, there are going to be some sunny intervals. So at some point between here and Alfriston, I hope to get some really nice shots, because this is definitely some of the best walking in southern England. So I'm just heading up to Beacon Hill now. It's a bit of a steep ascent to get up there, and that'll be the highest point of the day. And then from there it's just a couple of miles to the woods where I'll be camping tonight. Wow, I'm glad to get that little climb out the way. So this is Beacon Hill. Again, really nice views. I guess on a sunny day you can probably see almost as far as Poole in this direction. I can still see the south coast, so I guess Portsmouth over there somewhere. And great views towards the north. So I think this is 240 metres above sea level. It's just a bit lower than Butser Hill. And I can see where I'll be going tonight. There's a big wood on the next hill, so I'll be having a little break now and then I'll head up to there, because I think the rain is starting to come in now. I've just arrived at another site of historical interest. And this is a place called the Devil's Jumps, and this is a group of mounds called Barrows which date back 3,000 years, and this is the best example of a Bronze Age barrow cemetery. So I'm just going to go over and have a look now while there's still some light. So these are the 5 mounds of the Devil's Jumps. So 3,000 years ago this must have been a place of great religious importance. I think on the board it said that the mounds are aligned with the setting of the sun on Midsummer Day. So now I'm going to head back to the woods now, because this is the end of today's little journey. So I'm just going to find a spot to put the hammock up for tonight. I found a nice spot in the woods for tonight. So tonight I've got the bivvy hammock in bivvy mode, because there's lots of nice places to camp here. So it's very versatile bit of kit, because on a hot summer's night, well, I wouldn't need the tarp, the rain cover. I could just move that and just camp with just looking at the stars at night. So that's one of the joys of wild camping. So I'm just going to settle down now and see how my video today turned out. So then tomorrow I'm walking to Amberley, where I'll be stocking up with food again, and then heading up to Rackham Hill, where I'll be camping again. So until tomorrow morning, good night. Not a bad morning today. So today's itinerary, it's about 17 miles, so I'm walking to the village of Amberley, and then I'll be heading up to the top of Rackham Hill to spend the night. I think this stretch of the walk is quite easy actually. It's just following the South Downs Ridge all the way into Amberley. So I should get there, well, I should get to Rackham Hill quite early this afternoon. I'm just heading down into a valley. I think the village of Cocking is just over there. And at the bottom of the valley there is a cafe on the trail. I'm not sure if it's open this time of year, but I'll have a look. But I think it'll probably just be open in the summer, but it'd be nice to have a coffee if it is open. Just arrived at the cafe near Cocking. It is open during the winter, but it's not open till 9 o'clock, and it's only about 8:10 now, so I'm just going to continue carrying on, but it's useful to know if I ever come this way again. So I've just got to cross the main road into Cocking and then carry on up the hill. I've just arrived at Graffham Down Reserve archaeology site, and here there's two more of the Bronze Age barrows. So I'm just going to have a look at those as I walk past. So when they built these, they're about 3,000 to 4,000 years old. But when they were built, they would have built them using the chalk. So these would have been very high, impressive white mound, and they would have been seen for miles across into the distance. So I'm just gonna have a look at these and then carry on to Amberley. This stretch of the walk, apart from that valley into Cocking, this is quite a nice long flat walk, so making good progress. But these are the two Bronze Age barrows. I've just crossed another valley with a bit of a steep climb up to the top again, but I'm back on a nice flat walk now. This is called the Slindon Estate, and from here I can make out the south coast again. According to Google Maps, I'm due north of Bognor Regis, so Bognor Regis is just down there, and Littlehampton just up the coast. So I'm heading towards the River Arun, which goes down to Arundel and then down to Littlehampton, and that's where Amberley is. So that'll be my next, the next valley I'll be approaching. I've just arrived at the old route of Stane Street. So Stane Street was a Roman road, and they built the road shortly after the invasion of Britain in AD 43, and historians believe that the road was in full use by around AD 70. So Stane Street was a 57-mile long road, and it began in London, or Londinium, and it went all the way down to Chichester, or as the Romans would have called it, Novio Magus. And I think a lot of the route now is it's modern day dual carriageways take up the route where the road used to be, and a lot of it now is just bridle ways. And just down a few miles from the South Downs Way, there's a village called Bignor, and there's archaeologists found the remains of a Roman villa there with some very fine examples of floor mosaics. So that's a good place to go for anyone who's interested in Roman history. So now I'm going to continue along the South Downs Way to Amberley. Last part of today's walk now. I'm just heading down into the valley towards Amberley, which I can just see over in the distance. Then after that I'm walking up to the next hill, which is Rackham Hill, in the woods right on the top of the hill. That's where I'll be camping tonight. Just approaching the River Arun, and I can see Amberley just over on the left and Rackham Hill straight ahead. Tomorrow I'm staying in Stenning, which I'm quite looking forward to because it's absolutely freezing at the moment. There's a northerly wind coming down, so I'll be staying in a nice warm hotel tomorrow, and it's a very short walk. I think it's only about 10 miles, so nice easy day tomorrow. So I'm just heading down to Amberley now. There's a village stores there, so I'll be stocking up with food for tonight. Just arrived in the centre of Amberley, very picturesque little village. So I've stocked up with food now. There's a village store, so I've got all the food and drink for tonight. So now there's a bit of a slog up to Rackham Hill, but there's some really good views up there, so it's about a 30-40 minute walk, so not too bad. So I got the idea for camping up here from a video I saw on YouTube. It's on a YouTube channel called It Takes a Journey, and it's a young couple who did this walk, and they found a really good spot to camp up here. So I'm going up here tonight. I guess it must be quite a popular camping spot actually in the summer because it's quite close to Amberley, and also it's quite close to the halfway mark of the South Downs Way. But I think this time of year I'll probably have the place to myself, so I should be there in about 5 minutes. So that's the end of another day, and I've got the tarp up. Got it quite high at the moment because the wind's dropped, but if it gets a bit windier tonight I'll just drop it down a foot or so. So tomorrow's a very easy day. I'm just walking about 10 miles to Stenning, and I'll be staying in a nice warm hotel for the night, so looking forward to that. So until tomorrow, good night.